Welcome to season 6 of the RAG podcast. Now, for those of you who don't know, the RAG stands for Recruitment Agency Growth, and this show has been around since early 2019. And every week, we are obsessed with finding out how the world's most successful and innovative recruitment agencies and their founders have got to where they are today. In season 6, alongside the founder's story and the inside information of that business, I also want to focus on the reality of today's economy. There is so much noise about this inevitable recession that we find ourselves in right now. And where it's going to go, is it really having an impact on the recruitment sector? Are they seeing any change in job flow? Are they seeing any change in candidate control or activity? What is going on? I want to find out. So every single week, I want to forget the propaganda, forget the noise. I'm going to speak to a real life recruitment owner and find out what is going on in their business. I will bring it to you every single Wednesday from 12 o'clock across multiple platforms. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the RAG podcast. On this week's show, I'm joined by Antony Pitt. Antony is the president of Hanover USA and has been in the recruitment industry since 1996. I love this episode because Antony was so candid and straight down the line with his experience. Okay, so he's running a business now in the US of over 30 people, and globally there's a 70-man business headquartered in London, specialising in financial services recruitment. Antony's been doing that since 1996 in various forms. What's really interesting about this episode is Antony talks about his challenge with alcohol addiction. He was a complete alcoholic previous to moving to the US. So he lived in London for a long time, from London, built his recruitment career in London, had a real issue with alcohol to the point where it was affecting everything in his life. And he decided to move to the US to change everything. What happened is when he got to the US, it didn't make any difference. And it also affected him there until he went into rehab. In this episode, Antony breaks down his story, how alcohol addiction can affect anyone, but also how with the right help and support, you can come out the other side and do wonderful things. He's now running a multiple $1-million business. He's bought 2 homes in the US, and he's more excited about his career, and he's got more energy than he's ever had before. So anyone who is interested in the challenges we have outside of work and how we can get through tough times and still build a great business is going to be inspired by this show. I hope you enjoy every word of it. Without further ado, Antony, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Hi, nice to see you.
I know, it's great. It is currently 2 p.m. UK time, and it is 6 a.m. LA time, which is
it's
bonkers.
6 o'clock. It's dark and it's raining like it's been raining since January the 1st here.
Mate, I can't believe it. You said this offline. I think you're lying, Antony. I think you're trying to make me feel better.
I could turn the camera around if you want, but
no, it's all right. Whereabouts in LA specifically are you?
So our offices are in Torrance, which is if you know LA, there's a bunch of beach cities just south of LAX, the airport. So we're just along there, pretty close to the ocean. Most of the team here live within sort of 10, 15 minutes by the beach.
Pretty amazing. What about yourself? Do you live in Torrance or are you?
No, I live in Redondo.
Redondo, I know it.
Yeah, I've got a home very close to the beach there.
Yeah, I when I was out there in 2006 coaching football, I lived in Redondo, and
did you?
Yeah. I stayed with a family slightly inland, and the beach, Hermosa Beach, was like the name of the camp,
right?
But then there was people from Manhattan, Redondo, and Hermosa all in this one.
You know the area well. Yeah, Hermosa's like, I call it Vegas by the sea.
I love it.
It's crazy down there.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, I was there in September.
For that now.
I went for a walk around there in September. I didn't go in the morning. It was like 7 a.m. I went for a walk and I had breakfast. Oh, there's an unbelievable cafe on the way to Manhattan Beach on the right. You go up the beachfront from Hermosa to Manhattan, and then it's on the right hand side. It's just this little cafe on a road. It's like
good stuff.
No, it's like a woman's name, I think.
Oh, I know what you mean.
It was incredible anyway.
Yeah.
Not that it matters, but it was amazing. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I could live here. I want to be here. Yeah. Well, Antony, let's get into the real stuff. So Thank you for making the time so early. I'm sure my guests will be grateful for it. For those that don't know you, obviously I've done a bit of an introduction, but I can never do it justice. So for the listeners' benefit, give us an overview of you today, not the past, your job, your business, headcount, what you guys do, etc.
Okay. So I sit as the co-founder and president of Hanover Search US.
Yeah.
Hanover globally is headquartered in London. I think we've got about 70 staff globally now. Mm-hmm. And I sit as the president of the US business. We have just shy of 30 staff now, 3 principal offices here, one here in the LA area, one in New York City, downtown Manhattan, and we acquired a business last year in Chicago.
Right.
So that's the other main office there. We've got a few other members of staff dotted around sort of remotely, but they're the 3 main hubs.
Amazing. And how would you describe what Hanover actually do? Obviously search and recruitment, but specifically.
Yeah. So in the US, we are predominantly an executive search business, mm-hmm. And we specialize 95% in financial services. So Hanover traditionally in the UK was always built out of financial services. And over here, most of our work is in wealth management, private banking, insurance, asset management, and the other ancillary parts of that.
And is it C-level, just sort of director level, C-level, etc., across all areas of the businesses? Or
no, I mean we'll do a search for $100,000 salary, right up to I'm currently working on a 7-figure salary, right. And anything in the middle really.
Right. Okay, and that's across all divisions of those financial institutions.
It depends on the client. There are some clients that we're very, very, very close with, and our influence within that client has sort of spread out amongst various, disciplines within the organization. The 3 directors here tend to specialize in different areas. So I'm predominantly ultra high net worth, wealth management and private banking. Alex Curtis comes from a technology background, so he's helped develop the technology practice, and James Ridd is very much insurance, actuarial, that side of things.
Okay, wicked. So you're not an American by obvious nature.
You figured that much out.
You figured that one out with your London accent. So tell us the story of you, because you started life at Hanover in London, right? Was it 1996?
Yeah, I was Hanover's first ever employee 28 years ago now. Wow. In a previous life, I'd worked with James Emmett, who's the founder of Hanover, as a life insurance salesman straight out of college. So right. Cold calling, and I'll never forget the first cold call I ever did. I hid under the desk because I was just given the yellow pages. There you go. So I worked with James for a couple of years doing that. He left, and then he called me up one day and said, hey, come and work for this new firm we're setting up. It's a recruitment firm. I said, what's that? So, I always liked James. So I never forget, I turned up the first ever morning that Hanover existed. We were in an underground bunker in Covent Garden, London. Right. No windows, 3 desks, 3 phones. And I thought, what the hell is this? So that was 1996.
What's that? Well, you had a computer on your desk or just a phone?
No, we didn't have. We didn't know how to use them.
So what did you do then? They used to phone people, and how did
I was given the Pearl Assurance account. I don't know whether you remember that firm. No. They were a bit like the Prudential,
right?
And I used to honestly just go in the yellow pages and just call up all the people at Prudential or banks, financial advisors, and call them up. I used to do 100, 150 cold calls a day. James Emmett specialized in the actuarial field, and he had a red box and a blue box of Rolodex, index cards. And it was like, I think the red ones were qualified actuaries and the blue ones were no one had a computer.
What were you putting in there though? Like paper CVs, paper cards? Like what were
just paper Rolodex cards that he'd written and I'd written name, title, firm. We didn't have a database or anything.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's how the business started. So, but Hanover grew.
What was your life like then? Just go back to you as a person. In 1996, just paint the picture of you as a person outside of work, and what commitments and stuff did you have?
So I was 26. I'd sort of jumped around from industry. I'd spent, my first job was as a life insurance salesman working for a firm called Laurentian Milden in London, just becoming a financial advisor, 3-day training course. And day 4, I was out selling savings plans. I've got a red one and a blue one. Which one do you want?
Yeah.
The School of Hard Knocks. So I still make cold calls today.
Yeah, you said
So what was it? So I spent some time doing that. Then I was an estate agent for a few years, working for a firm called Raymond Bushell in Shepherd's Bush, London. I'll never forget that. Then I decided that I want to go and sail around the world. So a friend of mine was a professional yacht skipper. I did a few. I never actually one firm I worked for. I actually resigned from the middle of the Mediterranean because I said, I think I said, as you can see from my current position, I won't be in tomorrow.
Yeah,
and I'm not coming back. And that's when then I joined Hanover, single guy living in a flat with a couple of mates in London, up and down the Fulham Road.
I was 26 when I landed in London, single, living with 2 mates, enjoying a company called Venquis on Trafalgar Square, Northumberland Avenue. I mean, I had a bit of recruitment experience, but I can massively empathise in that your life at that point. I had no money, but I knew what I wanted from life.
No, yeah. I loved living in London in my 20s and 30s. It was great fun. Up and down the Fulham Road, Chelsea, and it was great.
So how did your career progress? I don't want to go into that every year because it's 28 years. But how would you describe the early days of your and how the business moved with it? Because you were right in from day one.
I was, yeah. So Hanover very quickly grew. We moved to some offices in the city, and within a couple of years, there was probably 20 people working at the firm. I would say I sort of developed myself a little niche in the wealth management sector. And I was placing what back then were called broker consultants. These were people that would sell financial products to financial advisors.
Yeah.
And then I left Hanover and went to work for another firm called Alexander Lort, a guy called Martin MacArthur. Mm-hmm. Funny enough, they were an underground bunker as well. And
why did you leave Hanover the first time?
Didn't really get on with James's then business partner.
Right.
I mean, we were friends, but it became untenable.
And how had the business grown in the time you were there?
Oh, quadrupled. I mean, Hanover was flying back then. Still is flying, but yeah, it grew very, very fast. I just wanted to work somewhere else. So I left, and then we must be in the early 2000s by now. And I always wanted to work in the US and live in the US. And my mother had become a US citizen. She was living in the US.
Right.
I'd spent some time out here in Hermosa Beach and surrounding areas. And I'll never forget it. One dark February evening, I just went, okay, I've had enough of this. So I went online and I typed in financial services recruiter beach, Los Angeles. And this guy's name came up called Bill Willis. And he ran a wealth management recruitment firm up in Palos Verdes, which I knew where that was. That was nice. So I called him up. I said, Bill, my name's Anthony. You don't know me, but you're going to hire me. He goes, who the hell are you? So we got talking. And
is he American or is he British? Or?
No, he's an American guy.
He's an American guy.
Never spoken to him before. I called him, basically. And he said, well, come and see me. So I said, I'll be there Friday. So I turned around, flew back out. He offered me the job. And I went, slight problem, though. I need a visa. Oh, you didn't tell me that. So the visa actually took 3 years to get. I mean, it was even being the son of an American citizen, it proved a long and difficult process. But I arrived here And if you're a student of the markets in February 09, which was the very, very bottom of
good day that
the global financial crisis.
How long you waited 3 years from meeting Bill to joining Bill?
It took that long to get the visa through. He had to advertise the job. I mean, we had to jump through so many hoops.
What did you do in that meantime?
I carried on working at Alexander Lord.
Did you find that was difficult when you knew you were mentally leaving? Like to carry
No, because I told Martin I wanted to go, and he always knew I was going to go.
Right.
And I was doing really well then. I was, doing some good numbers, making some good money.
Yeah.
Finally, the visa came through on Christmas Eve, 2008. It got delivered to my front door, and I went, right, Martin, I'm going. I'm gone. So off I went, and I arrived. And so many people have heard this story. I arrived here in February 09 with literally 3 bags of clothes. I packed up my apartment in Fulham, rented it out, turned up here with nowhere to live, went and met Bill. I said, right, what are we going to do? And I had a half-hour lesson on the wealth management industry here with Bill. And Monday morning, he said, there's a list of advisors, call them.
Yeah.
And
where did you live? How did you find
I lived in a hotel for a week, got on a bicycle and just rode round and found somewhere to live. Of course, here I had no credit history, so Bill had to guarantee my apartment and all that stuff. He lent me a car, and for the next 2 years, I would come in 6 o'clock every morning. I'd make a minimum of 100 cold calls a day to financial advisors, and within a couple of months, I suddenly realized, hang on, I'm getting a lot more callbacks than anyone else here, and I'm not saying anything different. And I suddenly twigged it's my accent.
Yeah.
And that's how I established my brand, I guess, in the US wealth management market.
You were the British guy who phones everyone up.
Yeah, and that's the time that do you remember Lehman went down?
Yeah.
And Barclays bought them. So I decided, well, I should work with Barclays because they're a British bank. So we had this British guy calling on behalf of a British bank in the US, and it worked. I
wanted to quickly interrupt this episode to update you on what it is I actually do all day, apart from the RAG podcast, of course. Now, most of you know from the episodes that I am the founder of Hyxhall, right? What you probably don't know is that we're currently working with over 250 recruitment agencies and over 4,000 of their recruiters around the world in every continent, and helping these businesses brand themselves and the people in the company better. Now, we have built a creative team over the last 6 years that helps manage the creation of new agency brands. Obviously, a lot of the listeners in the RAG are starting their businesses for the first time. But more often than not, we rebrand tired companies. So many businesses we work with are smashing it when it comes to revenue and performance, but their website and their online story was built back when they started for like 500 quid, and it just does not represent who they are today. So we believe getting that right building a brand becomes your anchor. Now, every good brand also needs traffic, right? You need people to see it, to come to the website, see you online, and that's where your people come in. So we work to either manage the personal brands of your team, or we can teach you how to build the brand yourselves. All of it is designed to give you consistency on LinkedIn that helps you stand out from the competition, show your personality, show and add value, and ultimately make more money. Now, I personally speak to potential new customers along with my business partner, Amma. So I would love to spend some time with you, my RAG listeners that I potentially don't even know yet. Any of you that are interested in building a brand that's fit for purpose in 2023 and beyond, come and speak to us. Just click the link in the show notes, fill in the form, and we will be in touch with you within 48 hours to book a 30 minutes video call ASAP. Right, back to the show. And when it came to the job, you were phoning financial advisors with the aim of finding out if they were open to being positioned.
Yeah.
And did you have the client base, or were you then having to then find the client base?
No, you didn't need the client. Well, yes, we had the clients, but that's not the hard part. The hard part is finding these advisors get 4 or 5 calls a day.
Yeah.
There's 30,000 of them in the US. and they get 3 or 4 calls a day. But my idea was, I'm going to sound a bit different. I'm calling on behalf of Barclays, and I became one of Bill's top billers within a very short space of time.
What age were you when you got there?
39.
Right. And did you, at that point, again, was there anything going on in the UK, family, or anything you need to, could you dedicate to the US, or did you have?
Oh yeah, no, I completely dedicate to the US. Yeah.
I think that's key, isn't it? What's it really like? I went there for 3 months. I was 19 and 20, and I was in a relationship with a girl who was in Pennsylvania, and I was in LA, and I was just a kid. Looking back, I'm like, why didn't I make the most of that? But I didn't.
Yeah.
But what was it really like culturally to get there and become living in the US? Because it looks amazing. I've been on that many holidays, and you watch movies, and everyone in the recruitment industry talks about go out there and you're going to double your income and blah, blah, blah. What's it really like to culturally live in the US, especially a city like LA?
Well, when I first got here, I didn't know anyone, of course. So I had to, build a whole new, I'd had issues previously, which I've spoken to you about before, which we can talk about if you want. So I really thought it was something, a chance for a new life, new career for me. And I remember actually my leaving party at Alexander Law when I left. All the comments were, "We'll see you in a month. We'll see you in 3 months." Or something. They didn't think I'd last. But look, of course, it's very different. The fact they speak the same language, or almost the same language, is very useful. But the outdoor lifestyle here is so different to London. London now feels, I love London, but it feels very close and, cramped. Here, you're outdoors all the time. And business-wise, I think it felt easier to do business here. You could call someone up, they'll take your call. You want to call the head of a wealth management business, you can leave a message and they'll call you back. It's just, business is really, really encouraged here, because it's a highly, highly capitalistic country, I guess.
Yeah. So,
and culturally, California is very like the UK. There are obviously, I don't know other parts of the US as well, but I know this part, and it worked for me.
And let's go into that then. So you talked about the challenges you had before. Tell us about what was going on before you got to the US.
So I'm a recovering alcoholic. Have been now for, I've lost count, 12, 13 years. When I moved out to the US, I still had the issues. And while I was working with Bill, those issues got worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point, it actually culminated in a lifelong friend of mine arriving at my doorstep. I'd been on a 2 or 3 week drinking binge, not been at work. And he came and airlifted me out to a place in Weston-super-Mare called Broadway Lodge.
Right.
Which I'm grateful to him and to them to this day. They saved my life. And I spent 8 weeks in a residential treatment center. And then Bill, bless him, kept my position open, actually paid me a bit of money while I was over there. I actually made some placements while I was in there. And came back. And look, it was alcoholism is a really terrible disease. It can affect anyone. But
tell us how it started. So obviously the classic thing in this industry is you get into it, you work hard, you play hard, you go to incentive, you take clients out. If you're meeting financial advisors in London and you're working with like-minded people, you're going to drink probably midweek at least multiple times. I remember getting to Friday in London, and it's very different in the north, I think. But in the south, you get to Friday and you were knackered. Like you'd been drinking Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Right.
And then Friday night, you're like, I'm going home.
Well, Thursday became the new Friday in London, for sure.
But up north, all my mates used to, they'd be in the week, they'd be playing football and go to the gym. And then on a Friday, they'd go out and hit it hard. It was like, it was a different mindset. But So tell us your story then around how working in this industry and how did it all culminate?
I don't think it's necessarily anything to do with the industry. I think if you're an alcoholic, you could be an alcoholic working in any industry. Certainly, it didn't help the fact that God, I remember at Hanover in London, I went out every night for 14 nights straight. We were trying to trying to beat the record sort of thing.
Wow.
But Thursday, it got to the Sean, I missed the odd Friday from work, and that's when you start realizing there's probably a problem. But in your 30s, you brush it off. You go, oh, you're fine.
Would you finish work and start drinking, or would you be drinking in the day? Or how would it go?
No, I wouldn't drink during the day. It was I would go out perhaps on a Thursday night and just keep going all Thursday night. Wake up Friday. True alcoholics wake up in the morning. Most people wake up and go, "Oh God, I feel like death. I'm just gonna get through this." But people with a problem wake up and go, "I need a drink to make myself feel better." But then you're done, because then that whole day's gone, and then the same thing happens. I mean, towards the end, I would go on binges where I was doing a liter of vodka a day, and I couldn't stop. Just could not stop. And your whole body's shaking.
Would you be awake like through the day, or would it put you to sleep?
Intermittently in and out. And also you isolate. So you unplug the phone, you shut the blinds, you sneak out when it's dark to the shop to get some more drink. It's a terrible, terrible situation. And when I see other people that are going through it, I mean, I had a call from a lifelong friend about a month ago saying, "Hey, my friend needs some help. Can you talk to her?" So, I love trying to help people that are going through that same situation. Because I hit rock bottom. I had to, when I was here, I was flat broke. I had to sell my house in England. I was, when we started, I've jumped forward a bit.
Yeah, we'll get back to the business in a minute, but
when we started Hanover here with James, I was personally probably 250 grand in debt.
Wow.
Yeah. And most of that is from not all of it was from drinking, but it just.
How do you accumulate that debt through drinking? Is it like taking out credit cards?
No, well, it wasn't all through drinking, but credit card debts, hadn't paid my taxes, all stuff like that. It just gets on top of you.
Yeah,
and I'd had a pretty bad run with the business as well.
Right.
But I don't think drinking helped.
No. So did you think moving to LA would be the bullet that would solve it? Did you kind of think the sun and the outdoors and just a new environment? Do you think London's the problem for a while?
Yeah, I mean, look, I would never knock London. I love it, but it is much more of it there. It is that has been the culture.
Yeah.
Whereas here's not so much.
No, I went to an event in LA in September actually, and there was about 100 entrepreneurs for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and then I left on the Sunday early. And there was, we're all in this, it was a huge office, really cool office in, where was it? Oh God, I can't remember the name of the place. It was right near the airport, near LAX anyway. And we're El Segundo. So in El Segundo, go into this building and there's a big fridge at the back of the room, and it's got like 1 million drinks. Like I'm talking soda. They love a sparkling water with flavor in America. I've never seen so many different brands. Yeah. There's about 1 billion of them. And then there was a load of beers. A lot of beers. And I remember on the Friday when we had like an interval about 4 p.m., I was like, anyone having a beer? And literally, I was the only Brit in the room, I think. And not one person was like, nah, we're all right. And they all just went for everyone was just drinking sparkling water. And maybe, again, I was in a specific type of room. But over 3 days, I probably shared a beer with like one guy. And I was a bit like, I kind of felt out of place a bit.
Yeah. No, it's not frowned upon here, but I'm convinced it's the outdoor lifestyle. And everyone wants to look good, feel good, in the sun and stuff like that. I strongly feel that. Yeah,
you don't want to like take your clothes off if you're packing a beer belly.
No, that's right.
So let's go back into the story then. So that has painted a lot of pictures for people. So we get to LA, you join Bill.
Yeah.
We're back at that point now. So you bring in financial advisors on behalf of Barclays. You got the British accent. It's starting to take off.
Yeah.
How did things progress from that point?
So when I came back from rehab, I continued with Bill, and I'll be forever grateful to Bill. But I started feeling, hey, I could probably do this on my own. I've always wanted to set up my own business. So I did. I left Bill. My first call was to a guy called John Chudzik. Funny enough, John works for me now.
Right.
At the time, John was head of recruitment at Barclays in the US. I called him up to say, hey, I've left. Can I work with you? And he gave me a retainer. So I spent a year working from home, literally making 150 cold calls a day. And then one of my friends and neighbors took an interest in what I was doing. He ran a small family private equity business, and suggested he invested some money in my business, which back then was called Opus.
Right.
And so I got some capital from him, and we moved into some offices not far from here, but they were in an industrial estate in Torrance.
Right.
And one night I had the idea, okay, so British accent kind of works. I'm in LA. I know, why don't I put an advert on? There's a group on Facebook called Brits in LA. So I said, part-time actresses required, British, Irish, Scottish, Australian, for part-time work. Please get in touch. I ended up hiring 4 aspiring actresses or students, British students, because I thought, well, actresses, they're good at delivering a script. So they used to come in 4 days a week, and I gave them a script, and they would make 100 calls a day, and boom, the phones lit up.
Did they actually? Because I always think it takes a certain type of person to phone someone who they don't know and generate a conversation. And obviously, I suppose they have to go into auditions all the time. But
they had no fear at all. No.
Wow.
It worked. So that's how really I established the business on my own.
Did any of them stick around and turn into recruiters, or
no? Actually, no, that's a lie. One of the ones I hired was an English lady I met watching the World Cup in Redondo Beach.
Right.
She came in a couple of days a week. Then it became full time, and she's still here today. But she wasn't an out of work actress. She was just someone I met in a pub. But I wasn't drinking.
Good on you. So, but the actresses, how did that? Because I can see that they're on the phone, they're generating candidates.
Yeah.
Why did they not stick around, or how did that all pan out?
Oh, it was never. I mean, they wanted to be actresses. I think you and I both know if you're 4 days a week, you're coming in and making 150 cold calls a day. It's pretty, and if you're making in this market, if you're making 150 calls, you're probably speaking to 10, 15 people.
Yeah.
And one of them might be interested. So it is really, really hard, really hard. And you can't continue doing that forever. So it was only ever a part-time thing.
Right. So you're building your own business, Opus.
Yeah.
How did that progress?
So we're now in 2015, 16, and we'd had a really good run. Actually, a friend of mine called Fiona, who worked at Hanover in London in 1997, years ago, I put another post on Facebook saying I need to hire some more people. And she reached out to me and said, "G'day, mate. I guess you don't want to employ someone like me." And I went, "Hang on a minute, that might work." So she ended up coming over. We got her a visa. And so Fiona and I worked closely together, and we were doing really well. And then the phone went, and it was mid 2016. James Emmett called. I got on the phone with James, and I'd always wanted to work with James again. He's a great mentor of mine, and he said, "Look, let's build a business together." I went, "All right, I like the sound of that." Because I was working probably 3-4 days a week. I was playing golf. I was living on the beach. It was very much a lifestyle business back then. And James came over. Are
you still drinking at this point?
No, not then.
No.
Ended up doing a deal with Will, the guy that had acquired 50% of my business, bought Will out, and then. So in 2016 was the last year on my own. That was actually a pretty tough year. We turned over about $500,000, nothing. Fast forward 12 months when I was back with Hanover, we did 1.8 million in our first 12 months as Hanover again. We moved into some, lovely new offices.
You just transitioned the business into Hanover, basically.
Yeah. And the interesting thing in 16 was when I started working, I got introduced to our now biggest client and started doing some work with them. And the minute that client saw I was now part of Hanover with like the bigger mothership, if you like, the mandate started just coming in left, right, and center. And so the business just took off.
How many people were in your own business when you merged it? Was it just you?
Back then, it was just me and Jenny. Jenny's the lady I met watching the World Cup.
Right. So doing 500,000 is not, when it's just you two, ain't that bad. Like I thought it was big team doing 500,000, but that's still pretty good, right?
It was okay. But remember, I was still 250 grand in personal debt for tax, credit card, family. It was a pretty rough time.
Yeah.
Pretty rough time. But then when James came on board and we became Hanover, people have always asked me what changed. Apart from the name, it was lots of little things, like having James there as a support every morning on the phone. He'd fly out 5-6 times a year, and having some structure, and just lots of little things, and it just worked. But I still think to this day the Britishness helps or has helped. Certainly when I'm visiting our biggest client, they love the fact that some of us here sound different and representing, because you know this more than me. I don't think there's many British recruitment firms that have successfully launched and grown in the US. Certainly not in the smaller regional boutique size. I don't know. I might be wrong there, but it's been an incredible success in how Hanover has built. I mean, the US is now as big as the UK business.
So talk us through that then. So what year was it that it changed? 2017 was it?
End of 16, beginning of 17.
Yes, that's when I started Hyxhall. I remember it well. So at that time, there's two of you. What did you, like you say, James in the corner picking up the phone, but if someone's listening thinking, right, I want to learn from this, let's break down some of the things that actually went on that you can track back to making positive change.
Yeah. So, well, the first thing we did is, it may seem simple, we moved into some smart offices. Okay. And we went about hiring 3 or 4 associate level, researcher level individuals. We did that through friends of friends, adverts on Indeed, interviewed a bunch of people. And back then, the business was still just financial advisors. So these people would come in and they'd have to make 100, a bit like the previous part-time staff. That's all we did. And so James started putting some processes in place. So we tracked the numbers, we tracked engagements, and we started building up a picture. But then the 3 or 4 clients, one of those clients started wanting to diversify what we did. So they would say, right, now go and find me a banker, a private banker. And I said, well, what's one of them? I don't know what that is. Go and meet my top banker. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
So we did that. Now I need a credit officer. And so it very slowly, we went from 100% contingent to probably within a year, 50% retained.
Did you need any coaching or advice on how to sell a retainer, or was it something that you just worked out yourself?
Do you know what? I didn't sell the retainer. The client called me up and said, "I've got a retainer for you." I mean,
right.
it was just like that. So it was we've been very, very fortunate that with this one client that, you know, we've done 250 retainers with them now in 5 years.
Wow. That's incredible. A senior level as well. So you start winning retainers.
Yeah.
How did your role change as the headcount change? Because you can't just do the face off to the business forever, right? So there must be a point where you've got to think about the infrastructure and the coaching and the team leadership and all the other stuff.
Well, James was very much front and center with that. He was out here a lot.
Right.
I mean, that's probably not my strength. And then we transplanted a guy called Dan James, who was in Hanover in London. He came over to New York. He's always wanted to work in New York. So he was out in New York, and he was like my East Coast, because we started getting retainers on the East Coast. And I said, well, I've got no one to do it. So Dan came over, and then I called up a guy called John Chudzik, who I mentioned earlier. By then, he was running his own little search firm up in Stowe, Vermont, in a ski resort where he lived. And I said, hey, what are you doing? We got talking. I said, I think come work with us. So all he was doing back then is what I used to do in my bedroom and just make cold calls all day. So we could offer him more variety and some colleagues. So John and Dan both joined on the East Coast. And my role then was really just managing that relationship at the top end with that one client. And, that client would say, right, I need you in Florida, go to Florida. I need you in New York, go and meet the head of the bank in New York. And I was out there just meeting and being introduced to as many executives and leaders of that business as I could, winning retainers and then passing them off.
So you were the main business developer for the whole business?
Yeah. I mean, that relationship very quickly became a 7-figure relationship for us.
Yeah.
And I remember the time we did our first million, it was like, whoa, it's crazy.
That's amazing with one client. So you've got James in your corner who's coming over and helping. You've got the team building. You've got a guy now in, was it the guy, John, you mentioned, did he come to you in LA or did he go somewhere else?
No, he stayed and is still there today in Stowe, Vermont, right in the top right-hand corner of America.
Right.
But he would come out, and Dan would come out here. I'd go out there. And, the business went from, 1.8 to 2.8, 3 million the next year. But I was doing everything in terms of running the business. I used to go in the office every Saturday, some Sundays, because Hanover's very, very good at tracking information. So we have things called trackers where everything has to be up to date, number of calls. I mean, it was like I was swamped. Yeah. And then if we fast forward a little bit, 2000 and just before COVID, actually, 2000 in January 2020, I was at a board meeting in London because Hanover had another small American business that concentrated just in the insurance and actuarial world. And we were all sitting around the table. I said, guys, we should just merge the two businesses. So, I mean, in an unbelievable stroke of good fortune, we did, not knowing the tsunami that was coming down the road with COVID. And so we merged the two businesses. So all of a sudden, I had helping me 2 additional leaders in the Hanover business. You had James Ridd and Alex Curtis. And then so Alex moved out here to the West Coast. James Ridd, the plan was for him to be in New York. And they would basically run the 2 coasts. And I'd continue to be the public face, go and develop that client and others. And so my day-to-day responsibility of running the business kind of ebbed away a bit. And I was left to just grow that relationship.
And that was pre-COVID. So how did that then end up playing out for you and when COVID kicked in?
Unbelievably well. I mean, we had our best 2 years ever in the 2 years of COVID. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was a stroke of luck that we happened to do it at that time. Obviously, you know, I still get a bit of PTSD from when COVID hit, because I think, oh my God, are we going to have a business? But our big client almost doubled in size during COVID. And so we rode that wave.
Here's a message from our newest sponsor in 2023, the Recruit Hub. Are you thinking about starting a recruitment business in the UK or the USA? If you've thought about it, if you've got any desire to start a recruitment business in the future, or you might have just started up and you think, am I doing it right? Then you can download a startup blueprint and access key information. Information relating to funding. How much money do you actually need and what are your options? Knowing where you stand. You know, what is your non-compete and do you have any restrictions you really need to consider? Do you need a co-founder? What do you need to know about going alone, going with someone else? How to automate your way to billing faster. Business planning basics, things like what is a business plan and how do you write one? And then how do you come up with a name and build a brand? Now, if you are interested in taking this document, our newest sponsor are giving it away for free. They are called Recruit Hub, and you can get it at recruit-hub.com/startup-blueprint. The link to this message is in the show notes. So go away, get that free information, and see if you're capable of starting a new business, or the business you've just started, is it set up for success? Let me know. So since then, you've had leaders driving the people, if you like, and managing the all the stuff that you don't really like getting into. And then you've been able to still be client development.
Client development, and I have maintained my 20 cold calls a day into. So the market out here, Sean, is so different to the UK with financial advisors. Most financial advisors in the UK, I think, are salary bonused. Okay, out here they're all commission only.
Yeah,
and if you move a financial advisor that is, I don't know, doing 10 million a year in revenue, so his book of business is generating $10 million a year for Merrill Lynch, for example.
Yeah.
Our clients or other wealth management firms are going to pay that man or woman $20 million to move. They get paid double what they're doing, cash up front to move. Right? So when I got here, I'm thinking, well, geez, why don't they move every year?
Yeah.
But they can't, because when they move, they're locked in for 10 years.
Right.
So it is a highly competitive market. That's why these people get called 4 or 5 times.
So the more you move people, the less product you have to move, because they're locked in then.
They're locked in, but there's 30,000 of them. There's plenty of them, and there is a way of finding out when people's deals are coming to an end. But the point I'm making is, over the 14 years I've been here, I've built relationships with advisors and teams. Some have become friends, and I've moved some of them, and those fees are astronomical.
What do you charge? Yeah, so if someone gets that $2 million to move,
so
20 million.
If you move a $10 million team, recruitment firms, not just Hanover, all firms here, the standard industry is 6% of that. So you're getting a $600,000 fee.
Wow. How many of them a year would you do?
1 or 2.
Yeah. So you'd be working. How many other deals would you do outside of that? Or would you be working for a small amount of the deals per year?
Well, I honestly couldn't tell you. I mean, it got to a point during COVID where the phone would go and go, oh God, it's more work. I mean, we were absolutely slammed and still are slammed here. I mean, it's, it's taken a bit of it's come off a little bit with the headwinds in the market right now, but it got to a point where we were winning so much business that we were having to, well, do we have the man and woman power here to fulfill those assignments? I mean, our associates could be working on 4 or 5 different retainers all at the same time.
Sounds busy, but lucrative and exciting.
Yeah, it was. It is. It is.
We talked about this before the show. So the market in the last month has changed with the likes of Silicon Valley Bank. I think there's been some work going on at Signature Bank.
Yeah.
There's been a number of press releases around, I think it was HSBC bought SVB for £1, didn't they, or something?
In the UK.
In the UK, yeah. What happened to them in the US?
They were just bought this week by First Citizens Business Bank, I think, who I don't know.
Could you, say no if it's not possible, but could you explain what's gone on, like in really simple layman's language, that why has this happened? Why have this bank gone bust?
So Silicon Valley Bank was a bank it was known as a bank for technology firms, venture capital firms, private equity firms. And they would hold huge amounts of cash deposits. Okay, because if you're running a technology firm and you get funding from a venture capital firm, let's say they give you $2 million to get your business going. The venture capital firm will say, make sure you put your money with Silicon Valley Bank, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And that was great during the period of very low interest rates. 12 months ago, when the Fed started raising rates, but very quickly, and the fastest they've ever raised them, very, very aggressively, suddenly those deposits, the bank's got to do something with them because they're not paying interest on them and they're not earning as much money on them. So what Silicon Valley did is they went and bought a load of treasuries, which are bonds with the US government, that are and their value goes up and down. And then, I'm no expert on this stuff, but, at the start of the year, it became apparent that those bonds that Silicon Valley had bought were not worth the money that they originally bought them for. So what happened was the market got wind of this, and apparently the CEO went online or went at a conference and said, look, we'll be absolutely fine as long as everyone doesn't take their money out. I was like, what a stupid thing to say.
Yeah.
So Peter Thiel is a big venture capital guy. And I read yesterday, he advised all his firms, his portfolio companies and other ventures to take their money out. And then, so there's a classic run on the bank. So all of a sudden, someone said to me yesterday, 100 billion of cash deposits were withdrawn from Silicon Valley in the space of 4 hours.
Oh my God.
So no bank can survive that. And over here in the US, the money in your bank account is only insured, guaranteed up to $250,000. So anything over that is uninsured and you could lose it.
Yeah.
So that began a run on the bank, and on the Friday, the government came in and said, we're closing the bank, we're taking it over. And of course, the contagion from that spills over to other smaller regional banks. See, the banking system here is very different to the UK. There you've got 4 banks, pretty much. You have building societies and, smaller regional players. But over here, there's hundreds and hundreds of banks, hundreds. And they all serve a different purpose. So the contagion spread within the regional banking system, because they're all thinking, well, if my money's not safe, where's my money safe? So they started taking their money out of these other regional banks and putting it into the likes of JP Morgan, Bank of America, where it's safe. So it's caused a big problem. And banking is built on confidence. It's all about confidence banking.
Yeah. And the impact on your business since this has happened?
To be determined, I would say. Our biggest client is directly affected by this, and they're going through some difficult times, but we're standing by them. And I've made that very clear that so once they get through this, we want to, we'll continue working with them. I know some of my competitors have taken a different decision and have decided to turn on these banks, and if they were previous clients, they're not now. But we want to do the right thing, and we're standing by our values. And I think eventually, once the dust settles on this, we'll come out of it in a very, very strong position. I know leadership at my client know that we've made this decision, and I'm very proud of that decision we've made.
I love it. But so the impact of that is dried up of vacancies, on hold of existing vacancies.
Current searches. I mean, we probably had 10 or 12 searches that are on hold. Some will come back, some won't. But remarkably, we had 3 people start last week with this particular bank, where they're in the press, everyone's saying they're going down, and we still had people start there last week. Obviously, the last 2 weeks for me, because I've spent so much time and effort building that client relationship, I had PTSD, I think, from when COVID hit. It was like, what the hell's going on here?
What have you been doing all day? Like, how have you been dealing with it?
I've been very proactive in reaching out to everyone I know there and saying, we're standing by you. We'll help you in any way. Please let me know. We're rooting for you, that sort of thing. And of course, my natural business development inner self suddenly switched on again. Okay. I've got to start thinking about what if the worst happens here? Where else can we go? And so I've come up with some pretty good, new business ideas that are already bearing fruit. And
you've got more than one bank as a.
Yeah.
So are the others pretty stable, or are we seeing the economy across?
Yeah, they are. They are, and that was the beauty of putting the 2 businesses together back in 2020, because back then that client probably accounted for 70% of our business.
Yeah.
Now it's 30.
Yeah.
So we're a much greatly diversified firm now than we were 5 years ago. 4 years ago.
I'll be honest. It's one thing about my business that I'm really grateful for is that, like, we work with so many recruitment firms. I'm working with 226, I think.
Yeah.
And actually, because I work with so many firms who all do every industry you can imagine. Like, I was on a call this morning with an education recruiter, cyber recruiter, a cyber recruiter, a generalist recruiter, all these different people. I'm like, I actually work with every sector because all my clients are all in every sector. So it's like, even if one's dropping, there's always someone doing well. And there's always an opportunity out there. You gotta try and find it. But as long as the whole banking system isn't suddenly coming to a slowdown, and it's just the odd bank, then it's still.
I think you'll see some ripple effects globally, though.
Yeah.
There might be a tightening of credit. We had Deutsche Bank had issues the other day, I saw. So I think this might accentuate a quick, dip into recession. Certainly will affect everything.
Yeah.
Because it's confidence. I think, banks will probably be a bit more careful about who they lend to and how much they lend, because they'll want to be building up their capital reserves. So it will have an effect.
No, it makes sense. I'll be honest, over the last couple of weeks, what are we in now? End of March. So 2023, end of March. The last few weeks has been noticeably different in terms of the feedback from customers.
Right.
In the UK and internationally, that the markets are slowing. But no one's saying it's a recession dip. Everyone's saying it's more back to pre-COVID level. We just saw a ridiculous market in the last couple of years. Do you agree that, there's been people in the last couple of years enter our industry who've never even seen a normal market? They don't know what business development is. They're just working on vacancies, and it's been an easy gig, really.
Yeah, almost certainly. But Hanover has been through, in the 28 years it's been around, it's been through God knows how many recessions, a global financial crash, COVID, Brexit, and although it does feel like we've been living in a permanent crisis for 4 years now. But we are very resilient. We have a uniqueness about ourselves here. Our brand is, and our cultures. I'm very big on creating the right culture here. I think.
How would you describe it?
Collaborative, entrepreneurial, fun. I'm a big proponent of making work fun. When we just upgraded our offices here about 6 months ago, and we made it because we didn't really mandate for people to come into the office. This whole remote working thing, I've never been a fan of myself. But we wanted to make it a really nice place to come. So we brought things like a shuffleboard in. We've got PlayStation, we've got dartboards, we've got, all sorts of things that and it looks spectacular. This thing behind me, you see, we had all these murals put up so we built Zoom rooms. We've got 3 or 4 different Zoom rooms. So we made it a really nice, relaxing, fun place to be. And I'm a huge proponent of that, doing the right thing, looking after our people, doing extraordinary things for our people that no other firms tend to do. I don't think. I know they don't. For example, your normal holiday allowance in the US is about 2 weeks.
It's bonkers that. They call it PTO, don't they? They've got this thing about time off, and I find it bonkers. Like you've got to talk about PTO. It's like,
So we did little thing, So we start with 20 days. Everyone gets their birthday off as a gift as well. We do things like payday lunches on a Friday. We buy everyone lunch. We go out regularly each quarter. If we had a really good quarter, we'll take them out on a trip or to an event. And something we brought in last year, which has been a huge success. In the US, everyone that works in the firm is allowed to work in another office for 1 week a year, fully paid. So, the guys here can go to New York for a week and we'll put them up in a hotel. We'll pay for their flights. They go to Chicago, and vice versa. And that's worked really well. It's something that, it's an expense, it's a cost for us, but I really wanted to get as much social interaction with the team as possible. And so that's really been very popular. They'll email the administrator here and say, okay, I want to come to LA this week, book my flights.
Wow. What I want to know about is like post-alcoholism, you've not drank for a long time.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing achievement.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're proud of, and you should be. How do you navigate now working with the staff and, the different ages and the different, they might want to drink and you're going out and you're socializing your events. How do you get around that yourself? How do you personally manage it?
Look, I'd never tell anyone not to drink. It's none of my business. And, a lot of the team here are young and they like fun. So I'm not going to stand in their way. I'll be honest with you. If we're out on a company event, I'll probably stay for the dinner and then leave. I don't love being in a loud place where people are drinking. It's just not my thing. That could be my age, to be honest with you. So, and I completely changed my life. I'm into golf. I play golf 2 or 3 times a week. This business has allowed me to buy 2 homes here in the US now. So I've got one at the beach. I've got one in the desert where I go every weekend to play golf.
Amazing.
And, I lead, I think, a pretty healthy life here. And we provide all our staff here with gym membership. So they They go to the gym. So I promote as much as I can healthy lifestyle, but I'm not gonna stop my guys and girls going out and have a good time. And
I think the key is, like you said, get out of the way when it gets to a certain time, and you're cool with that. You're just cool with it. I went out last week. We were in the expo in London, so the recruitment expo. We met with thousands of companies, and we met the suppliers, and we got there. I got there Tuesday morning, the 5:30 a.m. train from Sheffield, and then was there all day. Tuesday we went out for drinks, food with it as a team. Wednesday all day, a couple of drinks. We did some work in a pub and had some pizza, and then Thursday was our 6th anniversary as a business, so we went out.
Wow, congratulations!
Thanks, mate. We went out for a meal. We had a couple of people from South Africa fly in. We had a big South African party, big UK party, and we did karaoke till midnight.
Yeah.
And then I woke up on Friday and I was not good. I was like, not good. But seriously, I was like, why have I let myself kind of be drifted on? Everything that could have happened, like, do you want a drink? I said yes to everything. I'm like, I mean, I can't.
There's a famous saying from rehab I'll always remember is like, there are always consequences.
Yeah.
Always, big or small. But I loved my partying, clubbing times in London, but I'm done with that now.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, I've just come back, and I feel like it was a good thing actually, because I'm literally gone. What do I really want from? I'm looking at my week now and thinking, like, how do I want to live my week? I don't just want to say yes to everything, because that's what I've been doing recently, and it's not good.
Yeah.
I've got a baby on the way, which I'm really excited about in September.
Oh, wow.
I've got 2 step kids. I've got a lot of responsibility,
Yeah.
And I'm running a business. So I'm going to Dubai next week. I'm flying out on Tuesday, and that's going to be the first test, because when I'm back home now, my wife's pregnant. There's no alcohol around, but I'm going to Dubai. I'm going to do one day. I've got clients to meet. I'm going to have a few drinks on that one day, and I'm going to try and not drink for the rest of the week, which is there's a trigger. You get in the sun, you're on that plane, and it's like beer.
Yeah.
Like, it's a trigger. It's like a habitual thing that I think a lot of people listening will know. But I'm really, really excited to think, could I do 6 out of 7 days on holiday in the sun and not drink? I mean, could I do it? I want to come back feeling good. That's what I want.
You could do it. It's whether you choose to do it.
Yeah. Well, can I make the right decision? That's the question.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I make the right decision? I don't know if
exactly.
I don't think I've ever been on a holiday and not drank more than one. Like, I'll just run one day.
No.
But that's my plan. I'm going to try and go to that like once a week is like my go-to now. If I have a few, and I'm not talking about getting hammered, but even just having a few drinks once a week maximum. And then, because normally I don't drink a lot, but then I'll do 3 or 4 days in a row, and it ruins you it sets everything back. Your mindset, your physique.
The brain fog. The brain fog is the killer, because you feel like, well, I can't think straight.
Yeah.
Antony,
thanks for being so open. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Enjoyed it.
I think what you've done and how you've done it is incredible. I think I really do wish you the best of luck at the moment in the market. I don't worry about you, and I think you're right. I think even if it does get worse, you'll come out of this better with the mindset you've got.
Yeah.
Could I ask you for 3 pieces of advice, right? If someone's listening to you and they're building their recruitment business, and they're perhaps a lot earlier on in the phase of growth, early days, maybe on their own or with a number 1 or 2 staff, just give us 3 things that you think are important to be in place in order to make your business successful. And this can be any type there's no structure to this. Just 3 things that you've learned that have worked for you.
Okay. The first thing I would say is just being consistent. So when I built my business from the ground up, I would not leave my desk until I'd done 100 calls, regardless if I'd had 100 people say no to me. Because I knew every time someone said no, I almost wanted to say thank you, because I'm now closer to my next yes.
Yeah.
So that's a consistency. Second, I would say I have a saying here. It's called stay in the seat. Right. This business can be brutal, but it also can be highly rewarding, but it has a very, very canny way of rewarding hard work. And you just don't know when that success is going to come. But if you stay in the seat, and it goes back to the consistency part. If you stay in the seat, keep doing what you're good at, good things will happen. You just don't know when. And the third thing I would say is try and be different. Create that brand where you're known as, you're not just another recruitment firm. You're trying to be a little bit, do things differently. That's what we do here. And I'm a big proponent of that. Oh, that's Hanover. They do things differently. Little things. Because those little things get remembered and they go a very long way. So be creative don't just be a recruiter, become a true partner with those clients, get to know them, get in front of them. And
would you say that you know more about the humans behind some of your clients than other recruiters will?
100%.
I have this conversation all the time with my customers, and even, I think what separated me in my recruitment career, and even now, is ability to go beyond the job and talk about, like, we've had a lot of conversation here that has got nothing to do with recruitment, right? And I feel like we know each other better as a result of it. And how are you ever going to become a trusted advisor if you talk shop 24/7? Like, I don't think it's not, people don't want that. Like, they want to be able to have some off chat, and
they want a partner. They want not just a business partner, but someone that they can run ideas by, trust, share information, and find clients where their cultures align to yours. That's really important, and find that person in that organization that can be your advocate.
Yeah. Antony, it's been an absolute pleasure. If anyone's listened to this episode and wants to just pick your brains or reach out, is LinkedIn a good place to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to hear from people. Yeah.
Wicked.
Thank you, Sean. Definitely worth getting up early for this morning. I enjoyed it very much.
Awesome. Well, look, we'll keep in touch. We'll get you back on again in the future and see how you've progressed. All right?
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Have a great trip.
Thank you, as always, for listening to today's show. I truly, truly hope that you got value from it. That's the only reason I take time every week, is to ensure that my audience, future and existing recruitment owners, are learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. Today's episode was brought to you by Hyxhall Media. I am the CEO and founder of Hyxhall Media, and we are the world's leading content marketing and personal branding agency for recruitment businesses specifically. So we are working with over 200 agencies and 2,000 recruiters right now, both managing the brands, producing content, building written, video, podcast content for niche recruitment agencies all over the world, as well as coaching at a desk level individual recruiters in your businesses how to be better on LinkedIn. That's how to brand themselves. That's how to produce content. That's how to use the opportunity on LinkedIn to get traffic to their profiles and turn that into business. We're coaching people all over the world every single day. If any of that sounds of interest, please do visit www.hyxhallmedia.com or drop me, Sean Anderson, a personal message on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you. I'll see you soon.